Okay, guys, it's time. We're here. Y'all been waiting for it. I know you have. So let's talk about it. The Houndmaster. You know, people ask me all the time, which lore in Dead by Daylight do I think is the worst? Which one is the absolute worst of all the killer's lore? For a long time, I had trouble answering that question because there's definitely some bad lore. There's definitely some good lore. You kind of get a mix of both. But thanks to the Houndmaster, I no longer have to think about it. I no longer have to weigh that decision in my head. I now know whose lore is the worst of all the killers in Dead by Daylight because no other killer lore has that dog in it like this woman does. Oh my gosh, I cannot tell you how abysmal this lore is. This lore for the Houndmaster is so freaking dog shit that I actually had to dedicate the beginning of an entire live stream to just reading over it with the audience and breaking down every doggone thing wrong with it. Oh, I mean, sure, people hounded me later about how critical I was. People said that I was just hating on her for her look or because she was black, but none of that is the problem. In fact, I made a video later where I rewrote her whole lore, her whole character, and her power and her perks. I've never done something like that before. I've never had to take a killer and just rewrite their whole lore, but I had to this time because it needed to be done. I actually thought about skipping this video, guys. I'm being real. I thought, you know what? I've said all I have to say. I've been dogging this woman way too long already. I already talked about her in a live stream and did a whole rewrite video for her. I thought there's no point in doing an analyzed video for her. But you know what? If there's one thing I have trouble doing, it's letting sleeping dogs lie. So I felt like I just had to hound this woman one more time. Now, I will say, I'm not going to go too in-depth or detail as I did in the live stream. Like, I'm just not going to. I'm not really going to go into the lore in this one. If you really want to hear how this lore is bad and you don't mind sitting through about an hour of me rambling and ranting and just shouting and screaming, you can go check out the live stream. I'll drop a link in the description and here's the timestamp to start and stop watching, and you'll get to hear everything wrong with this lore. It is so bad. I cannot stress enough how awful this lore is. You want an idea of how bad this lore is? Here, let me give you an idea. In this opening segment of me introducing the Houndmaster, I have referenced dogs 7 times. That's already more times than the Houndmaster. The Houndmaster's lore has referenced dogs. The dog in her lore is such a tacked-on note, it's painfully obvious that they never intended to make her a Houndmaster killer. What they probably wanted to do, I have no evidence for this, but this is my guess. They wanted to make her a pirate killer. They wanted to make a pirate black woman who was an escaped slave, but thought that would be too risky to do, so they swiftly rewrote it to be a Houndmaster by just saying, oh yeah, a dog, and left it at that. Ironic, since the damn dog is the only redeeming thing about the killer, since you can pet the dog. That's it. That's the only thing good about this killer. The cane Corso that runs around with you is kind of cute. Again, if you want full details on the lore, go watch me break it down. It's really bad. Like, unbelievably bad. Some of the worst I've ever read. You really just gotta see it to believe it. But I don't want to go into that again because we'll be here for hours. Instead, let's move past the lore. Let's talk about the design. Another big problem I have with her.
Holy Jesus. What is that? What the fuck is that? What is that, Private Pile?
I've had lots of folks tell me that I only dislike her because she's black. This isn't true. In my video where I rewrote her, I kept her a black woman, so that's not the issue. I had to really take time to think on it, and I think I found the 3 things I hate about the Houndmaster's design, okay? One is her stupid hairdo. Okay, maybe it's a personal thing for me, I'll grant, but that shit looks so out of place and just bizarre. Like, when I think a killer, when I think a pirate, that is not what I think. Maybe it's a personal thing, but that hairdo doesn't look right. 2, her weapon, a cane sword. I'm sorry, that doesn't scream pirate or Houndmaster to me. You know what, if you wanted a Houndmaster killer, why not make it a whip? But just a cane sword just strikes me as the weapon of an aristocrat, which the lore went out of its way to tell us she is not. And finally, her pirate aesthetic just does not work. She looks like the designers couldn't decide between badass aristocrat and pirate queen, and instead decided on something that looks incredibly off-putting, which is why I like this new skin for her so much better. Yes, this is her new skin that she got. This looks worlds better with this outfit, so the design can be redeemed rather easily. But with lore and design aside, what about her power? What about her perks? Okay, her power is actually okay. I don't really mind her power too much. Her perks are some of the worst in the game, but we'll get to that. All right, so let's talk about gameplay. Let's talk about it. The Houndmaster's power revolves around her dog, Snug, because that's the name I'd give to my killer attack dog, but whatever. The goodest of good boys, Snug is. Snug will stay close to the Houndmaster at all times, weaving in and out of her, obediently waiting for her command. The Houndmaster has two commands for this good boy, search and chase. The search command is the most complicated, so let's start with that. The Houndmaster can send Snug to go and search a location or target a generator. Snug will then run towards it, giving off an aura of search around him and leaving a trail for the Houndmaster to follow. If the Houndmaster walks on this trail, she gains a speed boost to catch up to the dog. If a survivor is detected in Snug's search radius, they will be afflicted with Hound Sense. When afflicted with this, a survivor who gets injured will suffer the deep wound status effect, and a survivor put in the dying state makes louder noises of pain and leaves a large bloody trail. In truth, this portion of the power is best for simply getting around the map and searching for targets.
Fight me around.
It's her second power that people really like. The chase command will have Snug run down a vertical trail set up by the Houndmaster. The Houndmaster can pause Snug's run once during his attack and have him change directions. Snug can jump obstacles while chasing and cannot be blinded. But if Snug grabs a survivor, the survivor will suffer a severe hindered penalty and will be incapacitated. Snug will begin dragging the survivor closer to the Houndmaster, who can then strike them. The survivor can break free if A, 8 seconds pass, B, they drop a pallet on the dog, or C, another survivor helps them escape. Unfortunately, being grabbed by Snug does not apply injury by itself, unlike the Deathslinger, so you can't rely on Snug biting them to guarantee an injury.
Good. So. You are a worthy companion, aren't you?
All in all, I don't actually mind her power too much, but I'm certainly not very good with it. If you want to know how I'd fix the power or adjust it, go check out my video where I talk about how I'd fix the Houndmaster. I explain how I'd fix her lore there, her power, and her perks there. So have a great time with that one. Again, that link will be in the description. Go watch it. Go see what I try to do to fix the Houndmaster. All right? And now let's talk about the perks. I'm going to go ahead and say it. With the exception of one perk, the Houndmaster's perks are all dog shit. Pun intended. And one of those perks, the one that's good, still isn't that great. Her perks are All Shaking Thunder, No Quarter, Scourge Hook, Jagged Compass. Alright. If you're like me, you probably noticed that all these perks are named after pirate stuff. Again, further emphasizing that she has nothing to do with being a Houndmaster. Again, go see how I'd fix these perks. But let's talk about what we've got. All Shaking Thunder. When you fall from any height for the next 12 seconds, your lunge attack range is increased by 75%. Basically, this perk is a hard counter to balanced landing. Nia Carlson perk, which removes the hindered status effect survivors suffer from falling. This perk is fine, not really a problem, but it does require you have a map in which you could fall from any height, and it also only really gets value if your prey is using balanced landing. Otherwise, you don't really need it. This is a perk that does not really help you in most circumstances. It's very map situational, and unless the survivor's running balanced landing, you didn't need it in the first place. So honestly, yeah, this one's shit. Move on. Next is No Quarter. When a survivor is healing themselves by any means, when they hit 75% completion, they will be faced with continuous skill checks. Failing any of them or ceasing the action for any reason will apply the broken status effect for 30 seconds. This perk actually isn't too bad, but much like the previous perk, it has a lot of conditionals. First, it relies on the survivor having a med kit or the perk self-care. Second, it doesn't work if the survivors are healing each other, which is a faster and more reliable means of healing in-game. And since many survivors will not have a med kit or the perk self-care, they will rely on teammates to heal them, meaning there are few moments this perk will be able to get any real value. I suppose it's more useful than All Shaking Thunder, but if I'm being really honest, you will almost never find cause to use this perk. And then finally, Scourge Hook, Jagged Compass. This is the only perk that I didn't fully 100% change in my video. I just made a few adjustments. The trial starts with 4 random hooks turned into scourge hooks. When you hook a survivor on a scourge hook, the generator with the most progress is highlighted to you in white. Further, anytime a survivor is rescued from a normal hook, that hook is turned into a scourge hook. And honestly, I think that's the reason this perk is okay. One of the biggest weaknesses of scourge hooks is that they're usually spread out around the trial, and there may be a situation where the survivors are flocking around one area where there is not a scourge hook. If a survivor gets rescued from a normal hook, that hook becomes a scourge hook, so scourge hooks can now be moved and spread out around the trial, which helps you in getting value on scourge hooks. Let me tell you the problem, though. The other effect it has, honestly, isn't worth it. Not when you have Scourge Hook Pain Resonance, which doesn't show you the generator with the most completion. It explodes a generator with the most completion. So honestly, pair this perk with Scourge Hook Pain Resonance, and that's not too bad. I would say that's a decent combination, but now that's 2 perk slots you filled up just to get a decent Scourge Hook build. Honestly, what I wanted to change, again, go check out the video and you can see how I changed it, but I would change it to do something a little bit different. Again, I don't think this perk is the worst, but to get maximum impact off of it, you need a full Scourge Hook build. And again, if survivors are running Saboteur or something where they can tell which hooks are Scourge hooks, they're going to make sure that you don't get as much stuff off of it as you could. So that's my big issue with it. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is all I have to say and all I want to say about the Houndmaster. I know some of you are disappointed. I'm sure you came to this video to hear me go off on the lore, but you don't need to do that in this video. Again, go check out the beginning of the live stream where I just went ape shit on the lore and how in my video where I fix her, I fix the lore, I fix the perks, I fix the power. Now, some people are going to say, because they said in the comments section, you didn't fix anything, you just made new lore. Yes, I did. Because when you mess something up that royal, sometimes you got to break it down and start from scratch. I worked in concrete with my dad for months, and one thing I learned is if the concrete doesn't set right, you need to break the concrete and pour it again. That's what I did with that lore. It's that bad. The power, I just adjusted a little bit. I made 2 original perks and just adjusted the Scourge Hook Jagged Compass one. So go check it out. Go see what I did. You can decide for yourself if you think that the original lore is bad versus mine. I'll let you be the judge of that. It is so asinine. But we're done. We're done with it. I also want to point this out before we go. Did you notice how short and very vague the trailer was when the trailer was playing at the very beginning? You barely saw the new survivor. You don't know anything about them, and it was a less than 1 minute long trailer. You couldn't even done a minute long or a minute and a half long trailer where you see the dog chasing the survivor. We get a look at the survivor's face. We know kind of the scenario relationship between the two. Nope, you get none of that. So we don't know anything about this new survivor coming up. In fact, I know so little about her, I actually forgot her name. Yeah, it's true. I actually forgot her name. I'll put the name in text on the screen right now. But that's all I have time for today. Next time, we will talk about the new survivor that came out with Doom Course. But until then, I will see you in my next video. Take care, guys.